As Montreal prepares to celebrate the 375th anniversary of its founding, Mountain Lake PBS is proud to present the 5-part film series, Montréal, Mon Amour, Mon Histoire. Each film explores aspects of a given historic area of the city, from the old port of Montreal to the industrial east side of the city, from Mount Royal to the Street of Immigrants, Saint Laurent Boulevard, and of course, downtown Montreal. When you support Mountain Lake PBS with a one-time contribution of $75, we'll thank you with either the DVD or Blu-ray of The River and Its Island. The DVD and Blu-ray contain both the English and French versions of the film. With a generous one-time contribution of $180, we'll thank you with the complete 5-film box set of Montréal, Mon Amour, Mon Histoire on either DVD or Blu-ray. Along with The River and Its Island, the set contains the films Maisonneuve, Cradle of Industry, Around the Mountain, La Main, Street of Immigrants, and Downtown, The Age of Lights. The box set contains both the English and French versions of the films. Celebrate Montreal's 375th anniversary with a gift to yourself and your community when you become a supporter of Mountain Lake PBS. Call or go online to mountainlake.org right now. Thank you.
This night is about Montreal, it is about history, it is about community. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. This is just the last break that we're taking to remind you that this community station would not be possible without your support. So we've got phone volunteers, wonderful volunteers right behind us, members of our community advisory board, our board of directors, and volunteers ready to take your call. So make that call to the number on your screen. I'm Jen Kowalczyk with Mountain Lake PBS, and we're here with Ronit Yarovsky of Canadian Friends of Mountain Lake PBS.
And I'm so excited to be here at this pledge drive, and we're so excited to have you part of it and supporting us, and we can't do it without you and all our friends up in Montreal and surrounding areas. We have so many upcoming activities and programs for you planned up in Montreal. Please stay tuned, check our website, check your email, be part of it, and come and get to know us as your Montreal PBS station. Pick up the phone, make a donation, téléphonez-nous, faites un don. On a le film pour vous en anglais et en français. On a besoin de votre appui et merci beaucoup.
The important thing is that you make the decision to become a member of Mountain Lake PBS. It doesn't matter the level, whether if it doesn't work for you at the $75 or $180 level, which is what that Blu-ray or DVD or the box set of this Montreal series is, that's okay. Any amount that works for you. The important thing is that you decide to become a member of Mountain Lake PBS. Local stories like this one just wouldn't be possible without you. So it's so important that we hear from you. I'm so thrilled to hear so many phones ringing right behind me. So
keep it up.
Keep it up. This is the last break that we're taking, so now's your last chance, but the volunteers are standing by, so make sure that you make that call right now.
Continuez votre appui, continuez nous à téléphoner.
Thank you, thank you. And here we are, we have Tom Halleck still with Paul Carvalho.
Thanks, Jen and Ronit. It is a great sound to hear those phones ringing. We see at the end of the film a site that we still see today if we drive into Montreal, one of those giant grain storage facilities abandoned, the relic from the industrial age, as you say.
Correct, yes.
As the film ends, you talk about the great decline in the city, and you raise the question, will the city raise itself again? Has it, over the past half century, since the 70s, has Montreal seen a new era of prosperity?
The city is making great strides. You can imagine the city a little bit as Boston. It's often compared to Boston, a city that had a great industrial past. At some point it looked like it was going downhill, and then the city was seeded by people of great knowledge coming out essentially out of MIT, who then created all these industries. And that's happening to some degree in Montreal as well, where you have all these great new industries. We are making video games. We are hosting Hollywood films.
A lot of films are being made in Canada now, yes.
Correct. And we have a pharmaceutical industry. We have a Bombardier that makes planes. Montreal is a huge cultural hub, just creating entertainment, creating great music, museums, and all the rest. So it is coming back, and I can tell you from experience, I live in the old industrial part of the city in what used to be La Cité des Maisonneuve, where they made boats and airplanes in the old days, and the whole thing went down the hill. And today, people talk about this part of the city coming back. It's a mixed very exciting part of the city where you have the old working class, but you also have all these new students and young entrepreneurs and artists who are making the place happen.
And it's interesting you talk about that East End of Montreal. That is the subject of your second film, which we are going to be showing within a few weeks here at Mountain Lake PBS. We are so proud that we are going to be able to show all 5 of your films, a 5-part documentary, each film almost an hour long. So when you delve into the history of Montreal, you really do here. All 5 films together look at different parts of the history and look at different parts of different neighborhoods and different parts that make up the city.
I'm very proud of that film that you're going to see next on the eastern part of Montreal. That was a great industrial hub because the people of Montreal really, for the most part, know nothing about this part of the city. It went down the hill, it kind of disappeared in the 1970s. Nobody talks about it, but particularly on the Québécois side, everybody has an old uncle who worked at one of those great factories and who told them the story, and it's just come down through the generations that this is the place where we made our shoes for all of Canada, we made coats, we made boats. The first submarines ever to cross the Atlantic, the hulls were made in Boston, and everything inside those submarines was made in Montreal at La Vickers, La Canadian Vickers, which was the great shipbuilding company of the time. So much to discover, and I discovered it all on the second floor of the museum in this dusty big room where they said, you know, we got great photos of this industrial past, and I was a very skeptical reporter. I said, oh yes, they're going to show me 5 photos. No. Yeah. They showed me 500 photos that were amazing, and I thought, we have a film.
And you talk about amazing photographs. Everyone has talked about the cinematography in these series of films. The first one we saw tonight, the photographs, just a treasure trove of photographs that you have in these documentaries.
Yes. The photos were just a pleasure to dig out, and we scanned them at incredibly high resolutions. Then we brought them down at a resolution that could be supported by the television screen. But it was also very exciting to develop the filmmaking style, because we were working with the films as if they were feature films. That is, we realized very quickly that, oh, you can't light up a huge place. You've got to light it up as a consequence of what you're going to shoot. So you have to treat the people walking through an incredible old building as if they were actors in a set.
As we saw with the archivist, and the way that was shot and edited.
Exactly. So there's a jib inside there, and this essentially we would arrive at a place at 8 in the morning. We would light it up until 12. We would eat, and then we would hurry up and shoot it all between 1 and 4 p.m. And then it was a wrap.
So you really know what it's like to make a feature-length movie. You're there all day, and you get about maybe 20, 30, maybe a minute's worth of footage for your work for one day.
It's very much that.
Great. Paul, we're going to chat a little more, but right now let's send it over to Bill McCogan.
Thanks, Tom, and we are so proud to be bringing you this, the English language television premiere of The River and Its Island, the first part of Montreal, Mon Amour, Mon Histoire, a 5-part documentary series about the rich and varied history of the city of Montreal. I'm Bill McColgan, Director of Content and Finance for Mountain Lake PBS. And at Mountain Lake PBS, our mission is really to engage, to inspire, to enrich people in our communities through this kind of meaningful storytelling, through education, through entertainment, and through engagement in our communities on both sides of the border. And we can't do that without your support. So please call the number on your screen. We have some wonderful volunteers from our own Community Advisory Board and Board of Directors here standing by to talk to you and get your pledge of support and find out what you think of Mountain Lake PBS. We did want to take a little moment and thank a few people who have already sent in their pledges or called in their pledges. So merci beaucoup to Terry Giuliano, Penelope Cumas, Suzelle Bordelot, Gregory Vaux, John Iwanich, Sylvain Labbé, and Paul Deutschman. They are just some of the many callers that are pledging their support
for Mountain Lake PBS and our mission in this community. Won't you please join them? And speaking of Montreal, because this night is really celebrating Montreal and the wonderful influence of French-Canadian culture and heritage on our entire region, we're going to throw it over now to Paul Larson, who is standing by with our own Montreal blogger, Geneviève Roy. Paul, take it away.
Thank you so much, Bill. Geneviève Roy, it's so nice to have you in our studio. We're enjoying this film, Montréal, Mon Amour, Mon Histoire, the first of the 5-part series. It's going to get into the origins of places that you and I know very well, such as St. Catherine Street, the origin and the blossoming and how St. Catherine Street thrives. What do you love about St. Catherine Street?
Well, if you visited Montreal, you visited St. Catherine Street, you'll know it's a hub for culture. There's La Place des Festivals, where we annually host the International Jazz Festival, the Francofolies. It's just such a wonderful place to go shopping. I believe there are some exciting projects happening on St. Catherine Street to make it a fully pedestrian street. And also for Montreal's 375th, there are tons of things that are going to happen on St. Catherine Street.
And isn't it just wonderful to have a show that's going to tell us about the origin of this street? I think it's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to that part of the film series. And also, you've been a very active member of Mountain Lake PBS.
Yes, I have.
You have joined us for many of our events that we've held in Montreal. I remember a long time ago, the Downton Abbey event we had at the Rialto Theatre. You've been to many other recent events. Why do you enjoy being such an active member of Mountain Lake PBS and going to our events in Montreal?
Well, because I support the station, and it's a station I've been watching ever since I'm a young child. I continue watching the station. There are activities that really reach me. It reaches the community. There are Downton Abbey events, but there was also Kids Con. There was recently at the Montreal Arts Center, we invited a lot of artists to go up, and there were musicians that gathered, artists. It's a gathering place for people. I love what PBS does. All the different events really touch people on all steps of life.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you again for coming all the way down from Montreal to join us and celebrate this evening of Montreal. Right now we're going to go back to Jen and Ronit.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Geneviève, for everything that you do for us up in Montreal. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you again. And we couldn't do it without you at home, so thank you to everybody who has called in. I think we have almost hit our goal, so keep those phones ringing. We have just a few more minutes left here, so now is the time to give us a shout at the number on your screen, or of course you can make a donation online at mountainlake.org.
Please call in your support. We're so close to our goal. We know that with your support, we can get there. Téléphonez le numéro sur vos écrans. On peut atteindre notre trajet aujourd'hui. S'il vous plaît, téléphonez-nous et on a besoin de votre appui précieux. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much again. And right now we'll hear just a little bit more from Tom Halleck and Paul Carvalho.
All right, thanks a lot, Jen and Ronit. We just heard a few moments ago Geneviève talking about St. Catherine Street, and that is the subject of one of your films as well, how that street became the retail and entertainment center of Montreal.
Absolutely, that's the fifth of 5 films, it is an incredible story again because the street came alive. It was a sleepy residential street, and it came alive when James Morgan, who did business with a fashion shop, a clothing shop in Old Montreal, decided that he was going uptown. And everybody else said, "Why, are you crazy? There's nothing happening there." And he invested in creating this immense department store, such as those he had seen in New York and Paris, which is still standing there today. It's no longer called Morgan Store. Today, it's called L'Abbé.
Right, everyone knows that.
Everybody knows L'Abbé. It's still a reference.
And so the Ogilvies and others followed him up to St. Catherine.
That's right. And I have a story to tell you about that. When Scott Morgan is the person speaking in the film about the family, and I was desperate to find the Morgans. Is it possible that there's still descendants of the Morgans in the city? And then I finally got the number for Scott Morgan. I called him up and said, "Mr. Morgan, I'm Paul Carvalho, a filmmaker." And the voice on the other side said, "Paul, don't you remember? We were neighbors for years." The history was living next to me, but I knew him as Scott, my neighbor. And so we got together with another member, Elizabeth Morgan, member of the family, and then we did this wonderful segment on the Morgans of Montreal, 5 generations that control this incredible family business. And then, of course, we had to do the other side. We had to do the French-Canadian store, the Québécois store that defined the period. And I found a wonderful collector to take us through that period. So bit by bit, we found the people, we found the photos to do the history of this St. Catherine Street, where at one point there were 12 cabarets, one after the other. And who was paying to keep those cabarets alive? Americans crossing the border to see the big shows in town.
So
and those shows were often coming from New York.
That's right. And those are, that's one of the films. Also, we are going to see a film in the coming months on Mount Royal, around the mountain, which of course the city of Montreal grew up around, and also the Main, the part of St. Lawrence Boulevard where many generations of immigrants ended up living there in those neighborhoods. We are going to look forward to all 5 of those films in the coming month. Paul Carvalho, thank you very much for being here with us tonight. To all of our volunteers and all of my colleagues here at Mountain Lake PBS, thank you for watching and supporting us here on Mountain Lake Public Television.